Okay, so have you ever found yourself like smack in the middle of five different things? You're typing an email, maybe half listening to a conference call, glancing at social media, and all the while thinking, wow, I am absolutely crushing it right now.
Oh, yeah, that feeling.
We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
This idea that juggling everything at once makes us, super efficient, like some kind of productivity ninja. It's so ingrained.
It really is.
But what if, and this is the big question today, what if that whole idea, that belief in multitasking is actually one of the biggest roadblocks standing between you and like really learning things deeply or truly engaging or even just your own well-being? Today on the deep dive, we're kind of pulling back the curtain on whether we can actually multitask, especially when it comes to soaking up new info or, really understanding something complex or connecting with those moments that matter. Prepare for some surprising truths about focus, that quiet power.
Yeah, for this deep dive, we've really dug into the research. We've pulled out the key stuff from a source called Unmasking Multitasking. Focuses triumph in learning. And it's fascinating stuff. Quite rigorous academically, but honestly, very accessible. It shines a light on how our brains really work in this crazy, distracted world.
Right. So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to dissect what multitasking actually does, what it does to our ability to learn deeply, to our ability to be present in those really meaningful moments, including what the research calls our capacity for worship, and crucially, what it does to our mental health. We'll dig into why focus, in the end, wins what this source calls the learning war. And look, whether you're trying to master a new skill yourself, or you're an educator figuring out lessons, maybe a parent helping your kid with homework, or, a professional just trying to perform better and feel good about your work, this is really designed to give you some solid takeaways. And we should mention this podcast is proudly presented by Knowledge Sharing Podcast under Gospel Lyrics and Melodies Ministry. We genuinely believe understanding this stuff is key to flourishing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack this because, most of us kind of operate as if our brains are these amazing supercomputers, right? Handling tons of demanding tasks all at once, no sweat. But what's genuinely happening up there when we try to juggle 3, 4, 5 things? Are we really running multiple programs at the same time?
It's a great question. And what's really fascinating, the research strongly supports this, is that our brains are, well, surprisingly limited when it comes to doing multiple complex things simultaneously.
Limited.
Yeah. The source points right to this core idea in cognitive science called cognitive load theory. And what this theory basically tells us is that our working memory, the part of our brain juggling information right now, it has a pretty finite capacity.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much it can actively process at any one moment.
Finite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what feels like multitasking isn't actually simultaneous processing at all. It's really, really rapid task switching. Your brain isn't doing two things at once. It's frantically bouncing between them. Think of it like a computer processor trying to run too many heavy programs by just switching between them super fast. It looks smooth, maybe, but it's not doing them all at the same time.
Okay, that makes sense. It's switching, not juggling.
Precisely. And this switching, it isn't free. It comes at a real cost, often a hidden one. Think about it. Every time you switch, say, from writing that email to checking a quick text to back to the email, your brain has to kind of shut down the context for task A, load up everything needed for task B, then shut that down and reload task A again. It takes actual mental effort to shift your attention, reload the context, re-engage. There's this thing called attentional residue.
Attentional residue, like leftovers?
Kind of, yeah. Your mind leaves behind a little bit of the last task, like an echo. And that echo actually interferes with how well you do the new task. So each switch doesn't just slow you down. It reduces your understanding, makes you more likely to make mistakes, and honestly, it just drains your mental energy.
Wow. So, okay, this cognitive reality, this bottleneck in our working memory, that really sets the stage for what the source calls the learning war. It's like focus gets this huge advantage just because our brains can't effectively switch back and forth without losing something.
That's exactly it. Focus has the upper hand because switching is inherently inefficient.
But I have to admit, sometimes I feel more productive when I'm jumping between emails and calls and whatever else. Is that just a total illusion? Or does my brain trick me somehow?
That's a really common feeling, and it speaks to how sneaky this illusion is. You feel productive because, well, you're busy, you're constantly reacting, things are happening, and there's probably a little dopamine hit. With every notification cleared, every quick switch made, it gives you that fleeting sense of accomplishment.
Ah, the dopamine.
Yeah. But what we often miss is the quality of what we're producing. or the depth of our understanding, and just the sheer cumulative effort it takes to get, frankly, less done and less effectively. Research shows even those quick switches can tank your performance on complex stuff by like up to 40%. So while you feel like you're crushing it, you're actually racking up a pretty big cognitive debt.
40%. Wow. Okay. That really changes things. So if we're not truly multitasking, just rapidly switching and leaving this attentional residue, what does this constant mental dance do to our actual ability to learn, to absorb new stuff? This feels critical for anyone trying to, grow or pick up new skills.
Well, the impact is pretty clear, and honestly, quite detrimental. When your attention is constantly split, constantly jumping around because of task switching, you just don't comprehend things as well.
Yeah.
It's harder for your brain to build those strong, connected ideas about the new information because you're never really giving it the sustained attention it needs.
So the connections are weaker.
Exactly.
Huh.
Which leads directly to impaired retention. You might read something or hear something, but because your focus was bouncing around, you don't properly encode it into your long-term memory.
Yeah.
It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it. Some stuff might stay, but a lot just leaks out.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, everything just takes longer. You end up processing the material much more slowly and with less depth than if you just gave it your undivided attention from the start.
That resonates. It really does. It's like trying to read, I don't know, a really important article for work, something complex, while your phone is buzzing with notifications every 2 minutes. Or trying to study for a big exam, but you've got like 3 social media feeds open in other tabs. You feel incredibly busy, maybe even tell yourself you're getting stuff done, but you're not really engaging deeply, are you?
Not at all.
So for you, the learner, this means those study sessions might feel really long, really tiring, but the actual learning just isn't sticking. You find yourself rereading the same paragraph over and over, or just feeling like, ooh, can't grasp this concept. It explains why trying to do too much at once feels so frustrating and ultimately kind of unproductive for actual knowledge.
Precisely. The frustration is real because the inefficiency is real.
Okay, now here's where this deep dive gets really interesting for me, and maybe a bit surprising for some folks listening. Our source doesn't just stop at traditional learning or work productivity. It also highlights what multitasking does to our capacity for deep engagement in moments of, well, profound reflection or connection, including what it specifically calls our worship. Now, for some, that word worship might immediately signal religious services or prayer, but the insight here seems much broader, doesn't it? It applies to any moment where deep presence, focused intention is key for a truly meaningful experience.
Absolutely. That's a crucial point. The research does mention things like spiritual reflection, prayer, engaging with sacred texts. But the underlying principle is universal. Attempting to multitask during any moment meant for deep, intentional presence, whether it's that or meditating or appreciating art or even just having a heart-to-heart conversation, it leads to significantly diminished engagement.
How so?
Well, the cognitive load from distractions, even internal ones, like your mind wandering to your to-do list, it actively prevents that genuine connection. It stops you from being fully receptive, from experiencing that sense of flow or deep peace or real understanding. Your brain is still trying to switch tasks, even if the tasks are an external sound and an internal thought. So that fragmented attention means you're just never fully there.
So what you're saying is, whether it's trying to follow a sermon while mentally planning your week, or maybe trying to meditate while your phone keeps vibrating in your pocket, or even just trying to be present with your kids while half your mind is on work, that constant switching, internal or external, stops us from really immersing ourselves.
That's it, exactly.
It feels like a fundamental loss then, a loss of profound experience. It's like we're robbing ourselves of the chance to be fully present in those moments that could be deeply meaningful, whatever they are for us. It's almost like we're choosing to paddle around in the shallow end, never diving deep enough to see what's really down there.
That's a great analogy.
Oh.
The depth of our experience is directly tied to the depth of our attention. When attention is fractured, our experiences become fractured and, yeah, superficial. We might be physically in the room, but mentally, emotionally, we're kind of scattered, constantly pulled away. It's not just about getting less done. It's about living less deeply.
Wow. Okay. So beyond learning, beyond deep engagement, our source also really emphasizes the broader, maybe more insidious impact of multitasking on our mental health. What does all this cognitive juggling mean for our overall well-being? our stress levels, our peace of mind. This feels incredibly relevant today in our always-on world.
It really does, and it raises a critical question, right? If we're constantly asking our brains to switch, dealing with that attentional residue, what's the long-term psychological price? The research points to pretty significant mental health costs.
Such as?
Well, for starters, increased stress levels. Constantly shifting gears keeps your brain in a state of sort of low-grade alertness, anticipating the next demand. That can elevate cortisol, the stress hormone, which isn't great long-term for body or mind.
Okay, stress.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Then there's heightened anxiety, that pervasive feeling of always being behind, never quite catching up, feeling overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of things demanding your attention. That's classic multitasking territory. And this cycle, the stress, the anxiety, the feeling of overwhelm, it's a well-known path towards mental fatigue and eventually potential burnout.
Burnout. Yeah, we hear that word a lot.
And it makes sense because the constant demands of task switching are incredibly draining. They erode our ability to focus, to plan, to regulate our emotions. And over time, this can seriously reduce job satisfaction, overall contentment, maybe even just our simple capacity for daily joy.
That's a really stark picture. We often reach for multitasking thinking it'll help us manage being overwhelmed, but it sounds like it's actively creating more overwhelm, more stress.
In many ways, yes. It creates the illusion of control while actually increasing the internal chaos.
So, could you paint the opposite picture? What does that peace look like? The peace that comes from focused attention instead.
Absolutely. Contrast that constant mental churn, that feeling of being perpetually behind, with the genuine calm and sense of accomplishment that comes from sustained, focused attention on one thing. There's a profound quietness that can emerge during deep work when you're fully immersed, free from that constant pull of distraction.
You like getting in the zone.
Yeah, exactly. That state, often called flow, isn't just incredibly productive, though it usually is. It's also deeply restorative and satisfying psychologically. It's where creativity often sparks, where complex problems start to untangle, and where we feel a sense of mastery and real contentment. It actively reduces perceived stress and can even help improve our emotional regulation over time. It feels good because it aligns with how our brains work best.
Okay, so it really sounds like multitasking is less of a superpower and much more like a hidden drain, constantly zapping our energy, chipping away at our peace of mind, and ultimately blocking our ability to truly learn, connect, and thrive. So what is the antidote then? How does focus really win this learning war the source talks about? What does that victory actually look like for us?
Well, the core message from all this research is, thankfully, both clear and really optimistic. Focused attention is the undisputed winner. It just is. It allows for so much deeper processing of information. You don't just skim the surface. You genuinely understand, connect, and internalize what you're learning.
Deeper processing, okay.
Yeah, and that leads to much more effective memory encoding. The information doesn't just go in one ear and out the other. It actually sticks. It becomes part of your usable knowledge base. And critically, focus leads to significantly higher quality output in pretty much any activity, whether you're studying, working on a complex project, engaging in that deep reflection we talked about, or even just truly enjoying conversation with someone you care about. The quality goes way up.
Higher quality output, better memory, deeper understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the benefits go way beyond just ticking boxes or being productive in the narrow sense. Focus enables a richer, more intentional, and ultimately a more meaningful experience of life itself. It's about being fully present for the moments that matter, big and small, which, as the source kind of hints, makes life feel, yes, more academic in its depth, because you're truly grasping things, but also profoundly inspiring, because you're genuinely engaged. It fosters a more deliberate, less reactive way of navigating the world.
And these insights, they're really for everyone, aren't they? It doesn't matter what your role is. If you're trying to learn something new for yourself, or you're an educator trying to design lessons that actually work, a parent trying to help your kids study without tears, or a professional who wants not just busyness, but actual peak performance, innovation, and maybe even some job satisfaction. Understanding this power of focus over the illusion of multitasking, it feels genuinely transformative, like a foundational skill for growth and just feeling better.
It really is foundational.
Okay, so just to wrap our heads around this, our deep dive into unmasking multitasking, focuses triumph in learning, really brings home a core truth. Multitasking, it seems, far from being helpful, often just gets in the way. It fragments our attention, messes with our learning, makes it harder to connect deeply with life's important moments, including that spiritual presence or deep reflection. And it takes a real toll on our mental well being.
Yeah, that sums it up well.
And the clear winner, the key, is singular focus. That's what unlocks the deeper learning, the richer experiences, and ultimately a more peaceful and, frankly, more accomplished state of mind.
And we connect that to the bigger picture, maybe reflecting on our own habits.
Yeah.
It does raise a pretty important, maybe even challenging question for each of us, doesn't it? What are the hidden costs? Cognitive, emotional, maybe even spiritual, that we're paying, perhaps without even realizing it, by constantly trying to juggle too many things. And conversely, what amazing benefits, what richness might we unlock if we just chose, more often, more deliberately, to focus on one thing at a time?
That is a powerful thought to end on, something to really sit with. And I genuinely encourage you, listening right now, just observe your own habits in the next few days. Maybe pick one small area, just one, where you could intentionally swap the multitasking for some real focused attention.
Even a small change.
Yeah. Maybe it's putting your phone completely away during dinner, or closing all those extra browser tabs and silencing notifications for just, say, 30 minutes while you work on something important. See what happens. Notice the difference not just in what you get done, but in how you feel. That clarity, maybe that sense of calm, that genuine feeling of accomplishment. Because the power to enrich your mind, to really spark your curiosity, and to live a more present, fulfilling life, it seems it truly lies in reclaiming the power of singular focus.